is here to run the show. It's Dan King, you should already know. Dan King is gonna run the show. Oh yeah, listen up now, here we go. Dan King, he is the king of the empire, the chief, the leader. He's here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy Geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know. It's Dan King, and it's the top one.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're looking at my top 100 games of all time, and we're looking at sections 90 through 81. So let's get started. My number 90 is a card game, and it's about pirates. It's about looting and getting money with special role selections. We're looking at Libertalia for 2 to 6 players, 40 to 60, and it plays about an hour usually. And this game, I really like this game because everyone starts off with the same cards, the same roles. And depending on each day that you go out to sea and you're trying to get treasures, depending on what treasures are there, you might want to play different roles that do different things. And it's a little bit of guessing game of trying to figure out what are other people going to play. And you're trying to get one up on them or do the thing that you need to do. And as the game unfolds into the second and third voyages of this, or the second and third rounds, some cards won't be played from the first round. So as the game goes on, people's hands get more different. And it's always fun to try to figure out what people are playing, watch what the roles do. Some things, the roles trigger at different points of the day. It's just really interesting. It's pretty thinky, and it's a lot about just guessing what your opponents are going to do and trying to get the treasure or avoiding some of the bad treasures. Or sometimes you can get a treasure that kills a guy from your left or your right player. So there's a lot of a take that. There's a lot of messing with your opponent's role selection. It's just a really fun game, Libertalia. My number 89 is a card game that's based off of a very popular board game. I actually like the card game better in this case. We're talking about Thebes, the Tomb Raiders. This is a card game, 2 to 4 players, the box says 30 minutes, but it really takes 45 to 60 minutes to play this game. Now, I really did like Thebes. I really liked the aspect of pulling in the bag and pulling out rubble. And this plays out differently, and I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I do. You're going around, you're going to different areas, and you're trying to, excavate different cities to get different types of, artifacts. And you can sell those artifacts off to museums. You can sell them off for money. There's a really cool mechanism of time in this game where you might take a very big turn and do a lot of things, and then other people get multiple turns before you get yours, because it's about how much time you've spent. Whoever spent the least amount of time, it's their turn. Really cool way to do turn order in this game. The aspect of trying to figure out what's in each of the piles, what's already out there, what's left, because you know what types of treasures or artifacts are in each city to start the game, but they unfold over time differently here. They don't all start in the bag like they do in the board game. So it's a really fun game. It's very thematic. You're playing cards. You're just trying to excavate things and maybe trade them in for museums. It's just a really cool, fun thematic card game, and I think they've streamlined it and added great things to make this more fun for me than the board game, Thebes Tomb Raiders. Number 88 for me is a game about gardening. Yes, Garden Dice. This is a game for 2 to 4 players. This is another one of those games that's pretty easy to teach, but yet has more depth than you think it would. It's got very good artwork, cute, cartoony artwork. Makes you think the game's going to be very light. Don't get me wrong, this is not a heavy game, but it's heavier than it appears to be. There's a lot of thinking, a lot of, when you roll a dice, there's like a lot of different things you could do. You could be you're trying to place out vegetables and then water them and then harvest them for points. But a cool thing is the interaction with this is when you're next to other players, sometimes when they water or harvest, if you have certain types of vegetables next to theirs, they chain down. So you can strategically place your vegetables next to other people, hoping that when they spend the actions to water or harvest them, they're also going to harvest yours. There's also some take that mechanics where you can take animals out on there and you can attack their seeds and attack their vegetables. You can put scarecrows on there to keep them away. So there's a lot here in this little game that I really like. Lots of good decisions to make. You're trying to get some set collection for the end game scoring. It's just a really solid game, Garden Dice. Number 87, I told you I love negotiation games, and here's the first one on my list. We're talking about Article 27 here from Stronghold Games. This is a game where You are taking up one of the United Nations, and the artwork in this is awesome. Comes with one of the coolest components ever, a big solid real gavel to hit the ground with or hit the table with when it's time to vote. This game's cool because you've got some special interests that are secret during the game that are going to persuade you how you're negotiating. You're also going to be having one person as the Secretary General who has to make sure everybody's happy. But everybody's not going to be happy with everything. People, depending on their secret agenda or what's out there, what issues are out there to negotiate about, some people are going to really like or really not like the things that are on the table, and it's up to the Secretary General to make everybody happy, or else, if even one person vetoes, nobody gets anything. So you're trying to work as a team, but there's a lot of push and pull. There's that secret agenda thing, and everybody gets to be the Secretary General once. It's just a blast to play. I love the hidden information. I love the interaction. This is just a great family negotiation game. Let's see, and it plays up to, yes, 3 to 6 players, and it's pretty quick too. It's over in about 45 minutes. I think it's like 6 minutes per player, something like that. A great negotiation game, Article 27. This is my number 86, and it's typically a type of theme that I wouldn't normally be drawn to. It's about mining in a Martian colony. And we're talking about the game Infamy here. Now this game has a lot of things I like about it. There's a very interesting auction mechanic where you're auctioning off to influence certain people that are out in the colonies, and every time you bid, you have to bribe them and leave some expenses there. If it comes back to you, you got to leave some expenses, and if you don't win, you've already spent some money. So it really speeds the auction up, makes it very interesting. I love the auction mechanism in this game. It's also a little bit of you're trying to complete missions. So you're going to certain locations that are hidden, and you're trying to get certain things like compound or guns to complete missions. So people are fighting over the same areas, and you're doing it hiddenly where you're moving to. So you might end up in the same spot as somebody else. And you're trying to complete these missions. There's 3 different factions. Each of those have different abilities, and as you get better in those factions, they unlock other abilities that sometimes they all do special things, and they're all different, and you're all trying to move up a score track either in one of those factions or just have total infamy. It's just a really cool, interesting game, and that's why it's on my list. One to check out. I told you I love realistic themes. Here's another historical theme. Number 85 is 1960, The Making of a President. This is a 2-player game where one of you take obviously Kennedy, one takes Nixon. And it's a very card-driven game. It's designed by the same people that did Twilight Struggle, so it's very card-driven. And these cards can do multiple things, which I like. You can play them for events. You can play them to campaign. You can discard them and do things. Each card is something different you can do, and your hand's going to be sometimes good for you. There's always something you can do for those cards. It's really area control. You're trying to control the certain battleground states, but not just that. You're trying to get advertising in regions, because that helps you do something. You're trying to get up on one of the issues like civil rights or things like that, and that will do things different for the debates and things like that. It's a very interesting game. I really love the history here. Again, this is one of those games where historic, I'll read the flavor text, and I feel like I wasn't obviously alive in 1960, but I feel like I learned a lot about the election by playing this game. Great game, 1960, The Making of the President. This is one of the few games that's out of print on my list, but you might be able to find a used copy somewhere. All right, well, I said I don't usually like straight Euros, and this is a pretty straight Euro game, and it's pretty deep. It's a medium-heavy Euro game from Mayfair Games. We're talking about automobile, but hey, it's fitting through like a puzzle. It is a realistic theme, a historic theme. You're going to have to be taking control of Henry Ford and Mr. Chrysler, and you're going to be doing some role selection at the beginning of the round where you're grabbing one of those guys that will allow you to do something. And you're going to be building factories, and then going to be deciding on how many salespeople to sell, how many automobiles to build, and then as the game progresses, your older factories are outdated, and they give you negative problems. And you're always trying to push technology further, but it always costs more money. This is an unbelievably awesome economic game. If you like business, if you like trying to figure out economics, oof, this game has got a lot packed into it. It is probably a medium-heavy game. There's a lot to it. It's one of those games that takes a few plays through to really understand what's really going on. It's pretty deep. But wow, the theme, the artwork, the economics, it is a great game if you're good for something that's sort of a little bit deeper than the lighter games that I have been putting on my list. Number 83 for me is a co-op game, another realistic theme. Seeing a pattern here? Here we go with Police Precinct. Plays up to 6 players. This is a night, and it does have a possible bad cop traitor mechanic. Some people like that. I still like to play it just a straight game. It's a good co-op game. Everyone gets a special role like normal. You're playing against, obviously, the game. You're trying to arrest street punks. You're trying to solve a murder by investigating different spots with testimonies from witnesses at the apartment complex or the murder weapon or at the morgue. You're also trying to stop emergencies like car accidents, and then events are going to happen to beat you down every time. It's a really interesting game. It's very fun. Some of the information you have is hidden, so you don't always have that quarterbacking that sometimes happens in co-op games because you have cards that do certain things on your turn and different things on other people's turns, sort of dual use cards. A little bit of hidden information to help things out. For me, it's solid, and great artwork on this, by the way, on the police guys. Fun, thematic, great co-op game, Police Precinct. Number 82 here. I guess you could call it a realistic theme as we're going for a pattern here, but it is against my normal rules. I've had a couple Euros in this group, and this one is a pretty straight Euro too, which I don't typically like. This is Vikings. It recently got reprinted from Z-Man Games. This is a very interesting game for me Euro-wise. The thing I love about this is there's like this rondelle type of thing set up where all these different Vikings are going to come out at the beginning of the round, and you use that to kind of auction as to which one you want, and do you want to pay a lot for the guy that you really need, or you're going to wait for him because as people get bought up, the higher people get cheaper. So do you want to wait for that Viking that you really want to get a little cheaper so it's more affordable, or do you want to just pay through the nose and pay 11 or 12 for it now, knowing that you've got to get it, and they all have different abilities and they all score differently, and you're setting up your board, you're trying to stop other Vikings from attacking your island, you're trying to get gold, you're trying to get fish. It's a really cool Euro. It's not the type of game I typically like, which means it's really good for a Euro when I don't like Euros and I like this straight one. It might be one that you should check out if you don't like straight up Euro games. Vikings. And the last one for this list, number 81, is a pretty simple and quick card game. Takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. 3 to 6 players from Griffin Games. We're talking about For Sale here. A game that's very quick. It has 2 halves. The first half of the game, you're trying to basically buy low, sell high. First half of the game, different properties come out. Could be as low as a box, that someone's living in a box, or a castle, anywhere in between. And you're bidding in an auction trying to get these cards for as cheap, the best card for the cheapest amount as you can. Once all those are auctioned off, the first half of the game's over. You go to a second half of the game where you're trying to now sell those properties for the most amount of money. It's, again, simple to teach, 5 minutes to teach, has some depth there, and is really fun to figure out when to throw what. Very good game. For Sale.
He's here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know it's Dan King, and it's the top 100